And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15%. Or head to the app, and they will deliver right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Hi, Aaron.
Man, 2 days off and stuttering through the read.
I'm so tired. It has not 2 days off. Those are the worst 2 days. If that was 2 days off, those are the worst 2 days off in the history of 2 days off.
Well, the good news is you don't have to do it again for another year, right?
7 teenage girls in the house last night.
Not jealous.
I went to bed about 2:30, and they were still wide awake. Like running up and down the stairs and wide awake. I'm exhausted. And then
melatonin.
So then this morning, Kelly's family came over for breakfast before they went back to Tennessee. And I was thinking those girls aren't going to be up for breakfast. No chance. So it'll just be a small group of people for breakfast. And I opened the door just to give them the courtesy, because I had told them I was making breakfast. I opened the door to give them the courtesy, hey, breakfast is ready. And they were all awake. And I was like, oh, no. So then there was 15 people in my kitchen and dining room for breakfast this morning. And then we went over to my best friend's house and hung out at their pool all day.
It's a long day.
It's been a weekend.
Well, it is going to be a week, sir, as the Bearcats start camp on Wednesday.
And we have my annual interview with the head coach to preview camp.
Is this going to be a 3-parter again?
We'll see. I don't know. We've got so much stuff. I don't know if it makes sense to do it 3 parts or if it just makes sense to just release it. We'll see how tomorrow goes.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, well, I mean, Keegan's got a camp storylines article. I've got the interview with Satterfield. Tuesday is the camp press conference with Satterfield
talking
and the offensive and defensive coordinators. And then Wednesday is practice at Nippert. So
should be fun.
It is and then Thursday at Nippert, and then this weekend out to higher ground. And
no more radio though for a while, right?
I have to do Thursday I have to do 360 Thursday, noon to 3. But other than that, yeah, it's football time in Cincinnati.
Let's go.
As somebody once said. So yeah, it's been a long 5 months.
So
6 months.
Let me ask you this. This is how many camps now have you opened with a new coach?
So, I mean, I've been here. I started doing this, D'Antonio's last year. But for a while, I was kind of like the number 2 football guy behind Tim. And he covered football, I covered basketball. So I didn't do a ton where I was the main guy, but I was here for the change to BK. I was here for the change to Butch. I was here for the change to Tommy, to Luke, and now to Sat. So technically 5. It's a lot. It's a lot with 17 years on the 17 years on the job to have 5 coaching changes. That's a significant number of coaching changes in 15 years. So
where would you rank this as far as how excited you are?
I'm never excited. In terms of coverage, it's right up there with the most compelling, because there's never been a coaching change with the transfer portal. So normally you had some attrition with coaching changes, but you couldn't just fill the roster. There were restrictions on how many players you could bring in. You couldn't trade guy for guy. So maybe maybe there was coach, maybe they worked harder at retaining, and there were guys that were less hesitant, they're less eager to move because they had to sit a year, for all of those years. So we don't know anything about this offense. We don't know anything.
As far as coaching staffs go, in fairness to the guys who came in prior to Satterfield here, this is the biggest unknown outside of Tommy Tuberville, right?
Oh, I mean, I don't
know. I'm sorry, the biggest known, rather, not the biggest unknown, but the biggest known
in terms of a coach.
In terms of staff, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the head coach has experience coaching at BK was Central Michigan, so it wasn't like he was elite, and Butch was Central Michigan, and Fick was a coordinator. So yeah, I mean, Tommy at least had Tommy, whatever the fuck his name is. He at least had a track record. And Sat has a track record at the high level. Now it's not, he didn't have that breakthrough like that BCS or New Year's Six or whatever type season at Louisville. But we do know more about him and his staff, like what their track record, what their history is, than anybody else. But we don't know a ton about this team. Even like I've talked about this. We're pretty confident the defense is going to be really good.
Yeah,
but there's still a lot of new faces in new places.
I think the defense coming off of the year that they had last year, and you add in Brian Brown, who excites me far more than the previous DC.
Sure, but a completely different style.
Absolutely. I think that's a good thing, personally.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be
it doesn't mean it will translate. I get that.
Quickly. I think it'll translate at some point, but it doesn't mean it'll translate immediately.
Yeah. So as you're looking from a 40,000 foot view, prior to camp opening up at NIP, prior to Higher Ground, what are the top? We'll start with three, and if we still need to find time, but three biggest storylines that you're looking at right now.
I don't want to steal Keegan's thunder here because I know Keegan is doing a storylines article for tomorrow. But the main ones, quarterback, how different does Emory Jones look from where he was at in the spring? Like, how much more comfortable is he? How much more does, adding a couple talented wide receivers to that room, how does that kind of change the dynamic of what we saw in the spring? And granted, remember, I was limited in the spring. Like, I was there. My brain was not there. Like, I was a million other places. So this is going to be really as in terms of, for being honest, I could lie and say I was fully dialed in the spring. I think you would all know that's a lie now. Yeah. But where is he at in his development in terms of his understanding of the offense, the grasp of the offense? What, how much of him and the offensive staff been able to get together on how they want to handle the flight or fight? Like, do they want him standing in the pocket like he was at Arizona? Do they want him to use his feet a little bit more? Satterfield said at media day they want to get him on the move, and that's
hard to do that in camp though, as you've seen, right?
Sure, but you can set in his, he can't be tackled, but you can set in his mind
this is when you run. This is when you pass.
If we're at camp and he's not running the ball at all, that tells you that they want him to be more of a pocket passer. If he's kind of split and you're seeing some read option and he's pulling it, now they're not going to be able to hit him. But if he's pulling it and taking off, then that's going to be a significant part of the option or the offense.
I like the thought process that he is running because it's a planned run and not because he's running for his life behind an offensive line who can't block for him.
I'm pretty confident that they're going to be good center guard. Tackle is going to be one of those things at Higher Ground. And again, we're going to have that difficult task of figuring out, Is the offensive line struggling because the offensive line isn't good, or is it because they have one of the best defensive lines in America, which everybody seems to think that they do? So that's another thing that's, kind of hard to gauge. And then the flip side of that, if the offensive line is really good, are we maybe thinking the defense is going to be better than they might? You know what I mean? Like that's the other thing about the uncertainty is trying to figure out like, what exactly am I seeing? Like, take it back to Kobe's traditional junior year, his third year in the program, 2019, before Sauce really had his blow up, right?
Right.
He was dominant at camp. I called him Mamba Island. And it was just because the wide receiver room was, or it might have been 2018, the wide receiver room was abysmal. So, yeah, he had a great camp and he looked really good. But the reason he looked really good is because he was guarding guys that you and I probably could have guarded that year. So
I wouldn't go that far.
But you get my point. So you have to try to keep your brain in perspective on what am I seeing? How does it relate to like what we think we know, which is nothing. We don't know anything.
So what's your second thing that you're looking for?
Well, I coupled like three.
I know you did. Well, so I guess if we're gonna go with that, then that's fine because I have follow-up questions. I just didn't know if you wanted to move on to
quarterback, offensive line, and just uncertainty. Like the uncertainty is it's exciting from the owner of Bearcat Journal standpoint because people are going to want to read practice reports, watch everything that we're doing. Because like if you go back to 2021, that camp was the most boring camp ever. Like it was just me and Justin sitting there bullshitting and making jokes all day. Because we knew everything. There was nothing new to learn at that point.
That brings me to my next question. Am I crazy to think that I have more uncertainty for the wide receiver room than I do for the quarterback room at this point?
I think that's fair just because it's everybody is new instead of one guy is new.
How crazy is that, by the way, that there's one guy left?
Yeah, I mean it's unbelievable. It's hard to even fathom. But what I'm saying is there's like 7 unknowns in the wide receiver room and only 1 unknown in the quarterback room. It's just that quarterback is the most important guy on the field. But I think
the benefit of talent. The benefit of the doubt that I'm giving Emory is the fact that he's been a starter at Arizona State. He's played some at Florida. And so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt for being in 2 pretty good programs, Florida especially.
Yeah. Arizona State was a dumpster fire when he got there.
But there were some NFL caliber coaches there.
Sure. They were
ran out of the NFL, but still, there were NFL caliber coaches. So as far as the receiver room goes, though, we know nothing right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think D. Wiggins showed as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be really good. I like Donovan Ollie as a possession receiver that's got a little burst to him. And then you add Xavier Henderson, you add Aaron Turner. Barry Jackson had a great camp. So you're looking at enough guys, I think, and Chris Scott, obviously. We never mentioned Chris Scott because his dumb ass didn't leave.
So are you expecting any additions from any other position groups to the tight end room by chance?
Not that I've heard of. I mean,
I didn't know if that was even a possibility. I guess I'm just throwing. Yeah,
I mean, just because they added somebody. They added a JUCO guy. Thursday.
Okay.
July 27th, whatever that was, Thursday. Right. Yeah. But that was because he took 24 credit hours in one semester. And then they had work to do in the summer. So everybody was kind of like, I don't know, like, are we going to risk this? And the kid might not qualify. And then we lose a spot. So he was a kid that kind of fell through the cracks. There's not many guys falling through the cracks July 30th.
Right.
Like
I just know the cupboard
works.
I just know the cupboard's a little bare as far as tight end goes.
And I'm sure like they scoured, but you're not going to add somebody that you don't think is good enough or that, isn't going to help you in a room like that. Like you've got walk-on guys that are pretty talented.
If you don't like the cut of their jib, you don't go with them. I get it.
So, I mean, I think they probably would have, all things considered, would have liked to have had one more tight end, but that's not in the cards.
So, knowing you the way I know you, I'm curious to see if I can get this right. Quarterback aside, because we know that you're going to be watching quarterback, you obviously. Top 3 positions that you're going to be watching at camp.
Tackle, offensive tackle is going to be
which is a little out of character for you because you do struggle, as we've talked about off air and on air, that it's hard to, when you're not an offensive line guru.
Yeah, I mean you just don't know like what's the assignment, what are they supposed to be doing,
if they're pulling or
well, I mean, I know if a guy's supposed to, like, what it looks like if a guy's pulling.
We don't know if they're necessarily supposed to be or not.
If a guy just takes off and starts looping to the outside and he's not supposed to, I'm smart enough to know that's a red flag. But like, are they supposed to be driving in? Are they supposed to be like in terms of scheme and what their assignment is? It's not something I have a ton of expertise in, and like I shoot the people straight. If it's not. I ask a lot. Like I'll ask questions all camp. Tell me, what I like to do. I think my philosophy on it is that works for me. Watch it, and then when you got the coach on camera, ask him, "Am I seeing this right? Did I, and then they can generally what'll happen in the answer is they will bring you up to speed on whether you're looking at the right thing or you're an idiot. Usually I'm an idiot, especially on this particular topic, but at least it helps us get some clarity on, what we're doing.
It's good when you get the line. It's good when you get the one-on-ones with the tackles as well, where you can ask them, like, how do you feel like you're performing? And maybe they give it to you straight, maybe they don't. They're not going to bury themselves in a one-on-one interview, but at the same time, some people can be pretty critical.
I mean, the other thing there, like, we should get more position coach stuff during camp. Like, the spring, I couldn't.
Yeah.
There's
a lot going on.
It was literally go to practice and then straight to the hospital or straight home to be with the kid. Like, I just didn't have that ability. Like, hey, I'm going to stick around for 40 minutes and talk to this guy that's over working with, doing side work or talking to somebody or with a recruit or whatever. Like, I got to go. So we'll have a lot more assistant stuff. I'm going to try as many days that we don't get Satterfield, I'm going to try to have an assistant on every day until we run out of assistants. Like, that's kind of my
then you're going to double back through.
So, yeah. And we're doing the coordinators Tuesday. So that'll get a good start there. So yeah, that's kind of.
So it was
that was 2 offensive line,
tackle and offensive line,
safety. I think it's obvious they think they need more depth at safety. Brendel Smith leaving kind of created a gap, like leaving late kind of created a gap. I don't think like they have fully caught back up on yet. That DJ Taylor is getting looks there. Taj Ward, like how much will he be playing safety? How much will he be playing nickel or star or whatever they call it? I mean, Brian Threats is going to be, you would think, one of those guys. Can this new kid that they're bringing in at the last minute get up to speed fast enough to make some plays? So safety is really fascinating to me. I mean, wide receiver is easy. We talked about wide receiver a million times. Maybe tight end. just to see what is there behind Shaman. Like,
Yeah.
how much are
Peyton.
some of these Peyton Singletary, Caleb Schmidt?
Is he coming into his own right?
Yeah. So I'll go offensive tackle, safety, and tight end.
For me, on the days that I'm able to make it, however many of those will be this year, I'm with you as far as safety goes. I think that's actually my number one, because I think that's the only real question mark we have right now on defense. My number two, I've given it plenty of talk. Tight end behind Shaman, I think, is an easy one. But number three, I'm going to go running back, only because we know a lot of the pieces that are there, but I'm curious to see what they look like in the new system. I'm curious to see who's getting the runs with the ones, who's getting the runs with the twos, and who's left thereafter. But I think that running back might end up being a bit more shakeup than maybe we anticipated.
Well, I mean, Stats already said the plan is Miles Montgomery and Corey Kiner.
And I'm curious to see if that's who emerges by the end of camp, or if you see some shakeup as far as that goes, because we've seen what Ryan Montgomery can do. We've seen
Ethan Wright.
Ethan Wright he's gotten snaps in games prior to the last two seasons,
look promising.
And maybe this is a year that Stephen Bird shows out, as he's got a year now in the system.
And a little bit different style than a lot of, like, he's a little bit more between the tackles, a little more power,
more bolder.
So,
yeah.
So there's a place for him if he can have a big camp. I think maybe even as like just a short yardage guy or whatever. But I mean, that's probably Corey. But Bird could find, you know how running back goes. Like, you never know what's
dime a dozen, right?
Yeah.
So those would be the places that I'm probably looking at more than anything. Receiver, everyone's always watching receiver. It's an afterthought at this point when you're at camp. So,
look, we're going to be talking about camp all week, all month. Like, this is just the start. This is just the beginning. I am talking to Sat tomorrow. Keegan will have an article tomorrow on his top storylines. We'll have the BBP tomorrow night. Mike Rayfeld is joining us. We'll also be live watching. We'll be live watching TBT while we're doing that. No Royer. He's frolicking somewhere.
I love how he lets us know that yesterday.
Yeah. It's better. Better than tomorrow. So, yeah. And then Tuesday, the press conference with the coach and the coordinators. Another nightcap. Wednesday, the start of camp. And Dave and I doing the BCJ pod. And
conference realignment. Who knows what this week holds for conference realignment?
So look, man, this is the time. Like and subscribe if you're still here. Then why are you not liked and subscribed at this point? But it's new here. Like and subscribe. That's gonna call it a wrap. We weren't sure if we had enough time tonight. What we were going to talk about, but I think we did. We'll see you next time. It's the Nightcap. Brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com. I'm going to sleep.
See ya.